Hit that recording in progress, and welcome to another episode of Summer of Shift. Today we are hitting tactics 7 and 8. And Tiffany's going to take the first one, and I'm going to take the second one. But don't worry, we have to interrupt one another and add things. So you will hear from both of us the entire time. So if you do not know who I am, or if you're just joining us for the first time, I am Brooke Silva, your regional technology trainer. That is not Silver with a mass accent, friends. That is with an A at the end. We're having some evaluation discrepancies, so that's an A at the end. And I am joined today with Jennifer Bovey. She's off camera with some internet issues, but she's listening in. And Tiffany Hampton. Tiffany, who are you?
So Tiffany Hampton, I am in Maine and I am the regional productivity coach.
Welcome, welcome.
Obviously, I don't have a sense of humor, according to Karina.
She does. It's just not for dad jokes. If you have the ability to put your camera on, please do so. We don't care about your mom bun, your lack of bun, like top up. We don't care. We want to see your faces. We want to make sure you're getting this. And it is no fun to teach to a room of empty seats.
Screams.
So please turn on your camera so we can see your faces. We love to see you. Hi, Ilka. All right, Tiff, you ready to get rocking and rolling this week?
I am ready. I am ready. Let's do it.
All right, can everyone see my Summer of Shift?
Summer of what?
Shift. That F was there. Shift. And just a reminder, friends, anytime you want to ask a question, go ahead and hit that raise hand button, and one of us will call on you at the time, or we'll respond in chat. We are watching it, but sometimes it's hard for us to see if we're both presenting right now. So just let us know if you've got any questions. All right, tactics 7, tactic 8. So 7's price ahead of the market. And then stand out from the competition with staging strategies is going to be tactic 8. But let's just get right into it, Tiffany, with 7.
All right. When we say price ahead of the market, what do you guys hear? Put it in the chat box. Not too high, aggressive. Absolutely. So in a shift, are we looking back 6 months, 1 year, 2 months, 1 month? What would you think the time frame of when you should be looking at what's going on in the market?
Oh, Kelly Gowdy put something good in. Price it just right so we aren't chasing the market.
30 days current, active, pending. I love that. Price where the market is heading, 30 days. Good job. And this is where we need to be great with our conversations with our sellers, because what happens if our sellers outscript us? Come on, Brooke. What happens if our sellers outscript us?
Same thing here, silence. They're not going to choose us.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, like I have been in the business for 23 years. I have been outscripted by sellers. And you know what I lost? A lot of sleep when I woke up at 2 a.m. trying to figure out how to sell a house that's overpriced. Why do you want to do that to yourself? So the truth is the market remains full of people who genuinely want to sell. So when you hear that, why would people want to sell now? What are some reasons why we have sellers in the market today?
Life changes.
Life changes, absolutely. So when we look at forecasting, the best way to truly serve us is to how to outthink the sellers that are in their competition. Here's the deal. We have 2 like-kind houses. They're both on the market and they're the same house, colonial 4-bedroom. One is priced at $450, the other priced is at $415. What do you think happens with that $450 house? And feel free to come off mute and like actually have a convo with me. We're good. What happens to that $450 house? What happens to that $415 house?
$450 is gonna sit.
Right? And what does that $450 house do for the $415 house?
Gonna drive down the offers.
right? So that 415 house, if it's the same house as a 450 house, the 450 house just sells the 415 house, right? And we don't want to sell our competition because you know what happens, and let's just be real. Your seller looks down the street and sees that under contract house, and then what happens? They're like, well, they sold that house. Why can't you sell that house? I'm going to go list with that agent. We don't want that to happen. So we have to stay ahead of the market. We have to price to where we're going. Someone said that before, and not to where we've been. And here's the really cool thing, and we're going to talk about this down the road a little bit. When you price your house where you should, there's still potential to get multiple offers because buyers know when there's a good deal. All right. So what are you guys doing? And ladies, what are you ladies and gentlemen doing to price forecast? What tools are you using?
Recently sold, under agreements,
Where are you getting that information from?
MLS PIN.
Very good. Where else can you get information on what's going on in the market? Look at that, local realtor boards. How many of you, and I don't know if it was on this call or if it was on a different call, when a house sells and you're doing a market analysis on a house down the road, do you call the agent for the house that sold and said, hey, I have an opportunity. I'm going to use your property as a comparable. Can you tell me about it? Was it priced? You know, when you looked at, did you get multiple offers? If you got multiple offers, what were the range, right? Because you know, if you got offers between 420 and 450, and then you got one at 475, that one at 475 or 500, whoever, that's not necessarily where the value is. The value is between that 420 and 430 or 450, wherever it lands, right? So just keep in mind, we're going to have to do a little bit more work. This is where the skill building comes into play and not just the servicing, because now we're going to have to know values of properties and we're going to have to do different ways to do it. Valerie, yes, people will answer questions. Us realtors, we're nice humans. We like to talk to people. Contrary to belief, I do like to talk to people. All right, so don't chase the market, let the market chase you. Sellers will find themselves facing one of three real estate markets: a buyer's market, a seller's market, and a balanced market. What makes a seller's market?
Lack of inventory.
Under 3 months of inventory.
Okay. What makes a buyer's market? What makes a buyer's market?
Too much choices, too many choices.
Okay. How much inventory do you think we have when we're in a buyer's market?
I think it's 3 to 5 months.
5
6
to
months.
7 months.
Oh, 5 to 7.
Kylie had it. 6 months or more is really a buyer's market. That 3 to 5, that's where you're kind of in a balanced market. It can go either way.
Oh, right.
Yeah, absolutely. Sellers will discover having 3 pricing strategies for which to choose from: price the market, behind the market, or ahead of the market. Again, this is where your skill comes into play. What does it look like when you tell them, hey, yes, we're still in a seller's market. However, buyers still know the value of a property. So we could price your house at 525, even though comps say it's 499. Would you like to get many offers or one offer? And when you get that one offer, is that the highest and best offer that you could potentially get? Or could you get more offers and potentially go above where you thought you could be? So when you're having this conversation with them, you really need to strategically think around the fact that we're giving them advice. We're telling them this is what's going on. They're making the decision, and then we're making the decision. Does that property fit our inventory? So in a buyer's market, price seller wants, right? Does it matter what the seller wants for a house in a buyer's market?
Now market dictates the price, friends.
Right? So where do you think, and Brooke, you gave it away, right? In no market, it's not what the seller owes on the house. It's not what the seller wants to buy their new house on and they need X amount of dollars from this sale. It's not their neighbor house down the street sold for and they didn't have the upgrades I had, right? What the buyer's willing to pay is what the value of the house is. So when we're in a market where things are changing, this is when we look at, okay, are we priced right? Are we going to get the highest and best offer? So the tale of two markets, and honestly, we have markets here in Maine that we're getting still 7 to 10 offers. And then we have other areas where it's truly a buyer's market and the house is sitting on the market for a whole 30 days before it gets an offer. Like, how dare they not put in an offer before 30 days, right? So when we look at the tale of two markets, when you price out of the market, you're not even getting views. When you're in no man's land, you might get a couple of views, but you're really not going to get the offer. And then when you're in the market, when you look at that, that's when you get the most views. And price fixes all problems, right? So if you have a house that has a cow farm down the street, if you're up here in Maine, you might not get top dollar for that house and you're going to have to adjust the price based on the location. If the property needs repairs, you're going to have to price the house based on what it needs. So this next blurry but beautiful picture, this is where pre-COVID, we would have these conversations, right? You have your market value, you have 10% above, you have 15% above, and then you have 10% below and 15% below. In my 23 years of real estate, if I priced a house at 10% below, most of the time, I would get multiple offers. And if you look on the right-hand side, it shows you that 75% of your buyer pool will absolutely look at that house if it is 10% below market, and 90% of your buyer pool will look at the house if it's 15% below market. So how strong are you in having this conversation with your sellers?
Not only that, let's think about the way things roll up in MLSs or in ranges. Like, look at your websites, look at where consumers are looking and where are the ranges. When you go in, do they have to type a number or are there specific ranges set up ahead of time? Where are you in those to make sure that everybody's going to see the property in specific ranges as well?
Right. When you want to list your house for $199,999, just list it at 200. Why would I tell you to list it at 200?
Because if people are looking in the 200 to 250 range, you'll also be included in that search.
Correct. And if a buyer is in the market between 200 and 250 and they see your house at 200 and they see another house at 220 and they're similar, your house is a better deal and potentially you'll get that offer. So be the local economist.
Jen says that know your numbers. She's got the tattoo at Mega Camp. Ask her about it next time you see her. Know your numbers.
Because you do not want to be in real estate malpractice. And when you do not know your numbers, you are practicing without the knowledge that you should have. And yeah, again, service versus skill. We are moving to a skill-based market. So do you have your skills around being a local economist? And let's just talk about the news. Do you want to hear from the news who's telling us that the sky is falling? Or do you want to really share what the market is doing and the reality? And let's just talk about what does your SMART plan look like to make sure you're a local economist of choice, right, Brooke?
Yes, and it does all the work for you. So even if you don't know how to figure that out, your monthly neighborhood nurture puts that stuff right in for you, for those who are not as math savvy.
Yep. Preview more properties to get a better understanding of the market. You know, back in the day, I would preview 10 homes a week. Can you believe that? Like, I actually had the time to go view 10 properties a week. Who has the time right now to go preview properties 10 times a week? And Why don't you? Because you should. Yep, the 10-4.
Yep, that's
You
a
know
good
how
example.
awesome it is to go to a seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, there were 3 homes on the market that sold in the last 6 to 9 months. And here's all the differences between your house and their house. You know the market. So you analyze the MLS, take time to study. How many of you, just put me in the chat box, actually go and see MLS once a week, once a day, whatever it is, and pay attention to what's going on in the market? Yep. Good for you. Because if you don't know, what happens?
Somebody else
Seller's
does.
gonna outscript you. That agent down the street that you really don't want to see another sign of theirs in your area is going to outscript you. So know your numbers. And I love that. Confidence goes down. Absolutely. So use the MLS. When you're looking at what's going on, again, we hit on this at the very beginning. You're not going to look at properties that sold a year ago and then add 7% and expect that to be your value, because you know what happened? Yeah, we're not increasing, well, some areas, let me not generalize. Some areas are not increasing 7% a month in value. Get the big picture. Buyers will prioritize the deal rather than the area, right? Unless they are specific to, they want a specific school. If there's 2 houses, different towns, and one's a better deal, same house, they're going to go to the ones that's better deal.
Yeah, sorry, kids. New school district. Sorry.
I wouldn't tell you. I actually did that to my kids. I did that to
I
my kids
have.
the freshman
I
year,
have.
and I did do that to my kids. So I would do that to my kids. All right, what's next?
Absorption rates. How many of you know how to get the absorption rate or have taken the Market Navigator class to do so? There you go. There's your formula. Take a picture. I'll post this slide in our shift group as well. But there is how you get your absorption rate. It's the number of active homes and the number of homes sold in the last 30 days. Boom.
Some of our MLSs actually have a program that provides you with absorption rate. And if you love Excel like I do, you can create Excel and just build a spreadsheet and put the properties in. Here's what's really cool about the absorption rate. Take the absorption rate and then put it into price point categories. So you can say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we can list your house at 225, or we can list your house at 215, 220. If we price it at 215, there's only 4 other houses on the market to compete with yours. But if we go up to 220, 225, there's 25 houses. Which market group would you like to be in?
I love that.
Do you know what a 555 CMA is?
Who knows?
Yes,
Put it up.
5 closed, 5 under agreements, and 5 actives. That's Gary CMA.
Yep.
It's this simple for the CMA. We make a big deal out of our listing presentations where we could
The days of, I don't need a CMA. It's just going to sell.
gone. This is again where that skill comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I will say, the word of Mega Camp was skill.
Big time. Do you have the skills, or are you an order taker? Because that's what this shift is really going to push through is how are we with our skills? Do we have the 555? Do you even know where to get these pieces of information around that house? We need to get those. We need to be really good at comps, really good, and not what the software spits out from like Toolkit or Cloud CMA. We are the tool. Wait, that you're not tools. We have to be the expert that uses the tools.
Right. Well, and let's just have the conversation around, it was 3, 4, 5 months ago that we would say, where do you want to list your house? And they would say, and we would say, okay, and it would sell, right? So this idea of 5 sold comps, and let's be really creative in how we do this. When you bring those 5 sold comps, bring the pictures of what that house looks like, or bring, if you like paper, bring it in paper form, use the color ink, waste a little bit of tree. Or if you like technology, just bring your iPad and show them, these are the pictures of those houses. When you look at your house, what differentiates your house from this house, and let them make those decisions. Would you say their kitchen is an updated kitchen, or is your kitchen an update? So you can ask questions when you're sharing this information. The 5 sold comps, that is literally historical data. The 5 under contracts is what the market today is, and the 5 active comps is the market of tomorrow. All right. So don't miss the window of opportunity. Hey, Brooke, what's the #1 question that buyers ask about a property? When they say, hey, I saw this property online, how
Fast can you get me into it? And is it a good deal?
and how long has it been on the market?
Mm-hmm. And it's
And
funny because people panic about that phrase now. Like, remember, things didn't sit on market, but when I first jumped into KW life, things sat on the market 35 days plus, and it was no big deal. Like,
1,123 days. Could you imagine having a listing for 1,123 days? Yeah. When people say 30
free
days on
market.
the market, what's wrong with it? I'm like, let's go back to history. Let me tell you what's wrong with some houses. This one's been on the market 30 days. It's a great deal.
And who went to James Shaw? Remember when he showed us how many homes were having price reductions?
Yeah.
You can see that on your KW websites. There's a toggle for a filter for price reductions, and he proved over and over that no matter where you are in the United States, 30% of the homes have a price reduction attached to them.
Right.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Absolutely. So, we kind of touched on some of that. Your house, it really is, if the condition of your house is not where it should be, and Brooke's favorite subject is coming up next.
One of them, yeah.
But if your house isn't what it should be, what can you do to improve the condition of your house to get the price you want? And if you're not willing to, or you cannot, then what do we need to do with the condition? Allow the sellers to self-discover. Ask great questions. What questions can we ask around the house? We have up here, looking at all the comparables here in the MLS for your neighbor. How much would you be willing to pay for your house if you were a buyer today? Given what I've shown you about the market, what do you think your house will sell for? Look, what do you think we need to do? Here are the numbers. Here's a little secret, and again, have no idea where I heard it, but I heard over the last 2 weeks. The price that you put the house on the market for, that's the marketing price. That is not the sale price. That is the marketing price.
Agreed.
So what would it look like if we changed our conversation and say, where would you like your marketing price to be? Based on the information you see, where should we market your price? At what price point? The law of supply and demand. It's the law of the supply and demand. If you have a lot of supply and not a lot of demand, you're in a buyer's market. If you have a lot of buyers and not a lot of properties, you're in a seller's market. And we've all experienced a seller's market. And some of us have experienced a buyer's market.
And I'm not sure if you picked up the theme through all this, but Tiffany, what did our slides keep saying? Who sets the price of the home?
What is the buyer willing to pay?
Right. And it's certainly not us. We guide
Right.
them, right? We have to make sure that the seller knows they are the ones setting the price based on the information we give them and what the market dictates. But OG just put it in, Bonnie, the market sets the price. And I
Yep.
think that's one of those things we need to make sure that's a part of our listing presentation, right? Because there's going to be an agent that comes in and says, I'll get you 20,000 over asking. I'd rather be the agent that says, we're going to see what the market says and work with the market that we're in to get you the best for your home. That's a more realistic.
And let's remember, I think the number is like 80% of sellers work with the first agent they reach out to. So if you have all of this information set up and you asked a great question based on the information I shared, where would you like to list your home? You're not going to have a lot of conflict in that relationship, and you probably will not hear, I need to interview other agents, because why would they want to interview other agents?
So
They
true.
weren't impressed with what you had to say to them.
Correct. Yep.
So
And
impress them.
Yep. I will gladly say to a seller all day long, I appreciate that, you know, you want to interview other agents. Are you looking to interview other agents because I didn't answer one of your questions? And what question is it that I didn't answer? I answer that
Or
question
you,
and then I
or you could be
say,
like,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, you could be like Bonnie. Remember last time she said she brings her pillow and said she'll sleep over while they sleep on it?
Yep.
And she'll also call the other agent and cancel the appointment for them.
I did that to an agent once and they were so upset with me and they called me up and said, and I was like, bring the buyer.
Yeah, bring a buyer.
You should have been first.
You're not first.
When you're
Validate
first,
you.
again, going back before we hit tech to gate,
Mhm.
if 80% of sellers use the first agent they interview, would you want to be first, second, third, fourth? And if you're going up against somebody like me, do you want to
Good luck.
be right? Because I'm gonna get, I never really brought a pillow, but I think I would moving forward.
I think you would as well. I think you would absolutely bring a pillow.
I think Bonnie and I
think
come from the same.
I can almost guarantee that, knowing you both as well as I do, which is a perfect segue into our next session, because staging was one of the other hot S words at Mega Camp this week. I think I heard Gary say it like 18 times in 4 sentences. And he's always said it, you should be staging every single home. And what we're going to learn in this shift, and this quote's going to become really relevant, is that opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. How many of you have used a stager? Put it in the chat. How many of you used a professional stager? No, used a professional. We're going to go over some of the pros, the cons, where you are in your careers with that. But I love staging. I also, as the nerd in your world, when virtual staging is done correctly on a vacant home, I love it when I can't tell that it's virtual. And then I find out it is. Right? So we're going to go over some reasons why it could be good, why it may not be so good to stage yourself. So why aren't you staging every home if you're not staging? Give me some reasons why. I saw a couple lips moving, but you weren't off mute, so I couldn't hear you. Why aren't you staging?
Cost and time,
What was that, Carol?
cost and time, and I do have
Cost
my,
and time. Sorry, it's the Rhode Island accent. I haven't heard in a while. I miss you.
hey,
Cost and time.
there you go.
Okay. What else? Because the people think the house is fine. They're nose blind. How many of you seen those Febreze nose blind commercials? They're house blind. The seller refuses. Why is the seller refusing? Maybe we don't know how to push the value or speak about the value of what staging can actually do for a home. So price is the number one issue in getting a house sold. Tiffany just went over that with us on everything we just did. But guys, the price has to match the condition. We see this often when we walk into a neighborhood where there's 3 homes for sale. They're all either high or within the same 5,000, and you walk into one and it is stunning. There's nothing that has to be done. Then you walk into the next and it's got the same stock things that the builder put in, right? Same cabinets, no upgrades, original faucets. And then you go to the last one and nobody's cleaned the crayons off the wall. There's clutter everywhere. Now you're looking at about the same square footage, same home footprint, and the price doesn't match the condition. They're intertwined. You pay what you get for in staging. And I love this quote from a USA article. They give this to us in the shift book, and it says, on average, they looked at 2,000 properties in 8 cities. They sold in half the time that non-staged homes did, with 6.3% over asking. So they were staged, they were priced properly, and they were able to get these at over. Now, how wonderful would this be if you were to add this to a part of your listing presentation about why staging your home is so important? Would this be valuable to your clients? Do you have a section in your listing presentation about staging or decluttering your home?
Absolutely.
I'm seeing some no's, I'm seeing
Yes.
some head shakes. If you are using the command listing presentation, there is a section about putting your best foot forward when showing the property, things to do. And we have some of those in here. Buyer's market's going to be a stager's market because, again, if we're trying to prove that this home is worth what you're putting it out for, a picture says 1,000 words. How many of you follow any of those Facebook groups where it's all about the MLS photos that should not be? The iPhone photos, the bad angles, the things hanging out, the unmade beds, people still sleeping in the beds when they're showing the properties. These things are real and they exist and they happen. I had to tell you, yeah, toilet lids open,
I was gonna
things
say
like
the same
drawers
thing.
open. It's
Yeah.
so bad. It is clutter everywhere. It's got to, Tiffany said this before, and you're going to see this in the next few chapters. It's got to look like a great deal and it's got to have great value. So we've got to start adding that to our listing presentations and adding a piece about staging, and then making sure that the seller does know how it can impact the sale of the house. So what do you guys look for quick improvements when you walk into a house? Because we start judging the second you walk through the door. Guys, you are judging the second you pull up in your car and you've got your clipboard ready and you're like, oh my God, no, those plants got to go. There's weeds everywhere. You know what you're looking for.
Yeah,
I love
clutter, clean.
Yep. People taking pictures standing in the mirrors are my favorite.
Right.
There's a whole Facebook group dedicated to that, Karina, by the way. So you're looking for cleanliness. Is it inviting? Are there any safety issues? What else are we looking for? Space, flow, railings. Yeah, hello inspections and some mortgage. Peeling paint, light, deferred maintenance. So we learned this in Ignite, in the original Ignite. It's the 3P2F. These are the things to prioritize and to talk to your clients about. It's plants, paint, personal pictures, fixtures, and furnishings. Do you have sticky fingerprints all over that stainless steel fridge? It's a real thing. Do you have 700 magnets? Right? What is standing out? Do you have plants, but they're all dead?
If you go to my house, I don't have
Yeah, I
time
know.
for that.
I'm a green thumb, so I have a thriving metropolis. But some people are there such things as too many plants? Absolutely. Right? So there's a delicate balance, but these are 5 things that you can tell your sellers. These are what other buyers are going to look for. This is the first thing, whether they think they're doing it, they're just automatically looking at these things, whether they realize it or not. When we're convincing sellers to stage, we've got to talk about homes that are staged and what they sold for versus homes that were not staged. We can give real examples. We've got that information in the MLS. You can tell when something is staged or not. Talk to top agents in your market center who are using stagers if you're not, and get information from them. Talk to them about what they love best about the staging. And then you're going to know right away during your presentation if they're hesitant or we need to give a little more advice. Sometimes they think staging and they think, oh my God, a professional is going to come in with all this bougie furniture, upset my life. I'm going to be nervous about my kids going there. But talk to them about what it is. It's kind of it's Marie Kondo, right? It's decluttering. It is making sure that sometimes it's a checklist, right? I know I get overwhelmed by things, but I'm the checklist queen for myself. What if we gave our sellers a checklist that went along with all those decluttering things, the plants, all the things we just talked about the process?
And getting back to the listing presentation, I did tons of expired listings during my time, and I would have pictures of the listing when it expired, the listing after I staged it, how much it sold for, and days on market that it sold for. And let's just have a conversation around the fact that Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you wasted, and don't use the word wasted, you wasted 6 months on the market. What would your life have looked like? How much money would you have saved? What were the carrying costs because you didn't sell your house? Do you want to risk that? Right? Those are
And-
questions you should be asking.
And Cheryl just put in something that is important to point out, that some stagers will not stage a home that's occupied. But there's a difference between staging a vacant home and staging a home where these sellers are going to continue to live. Decluttering, moving things, changing how furniture goes. There's a big difference between vacant home and staging a lived in and where they will continue to occupy until the sale of the home. So that's something you also need to be clear about with your staging professionals if you are going to work with them. Guess what? You get to pack anyway. They're going to have to do these things. So helping your sellers get moving in this, exactly. Mary just put it. She just put it, they're going to have to move anyway. So do you need a staging pro? There are pros and cons, like what I did there. So if you're going to do it yourself, you're going to spend more time with your sellers and you're building relationship, and that's wonderful. There's no monetary expense except for your sweat equity and your time, and you have control over the finished product. I also know I have a very specific style that may not match the market of the buyers. Right? We all have those predefined biases about what we like in style and what we don't. It also may not match. Oops. Cons, you're the bad guy. If people don't like the way the house looks, all of a sudden you're the fall guy. This is your fault. You staged this like crap. It's not moving. Right? So now you're the bad guy. It could cost you more in time. If it's taking you out of lead generating and building business elsewhere, is it a good use of your time? And maybe you don't have the skill set. Staging is a very specific skill set that they're certified in. We have some great stagers in New England. Many of us use the same ones over and over. I see their names often. There are some tips, and I will get this into the Shift Facebook group later. But if you want more information, if you're interested and do have the time right now, there are some places you can go. Checklists are the best place to start with those 5 things before they can declutter, right? They can make sure the plants are dead. They can make sure fingerprints are gone, pictures are down, stuff like that. But you also need a professional network, right? Our stagers know the best carpet cleaners, wall cleaners, steamers, people that are going to get things done quick and on a budget for the home staging, right? Whereas I might know landscapers, but I don't know if they know how to flip a property for quick sale versus the whole kit and caboodle, and they're going to try to upsell us on 40 different things. You can train those who work with you to do it. If you have an admin, if you've got buyers, sellers, agents, you can train them on your standards and you can still continue to have control. They feel like your sellers feel like you're specializing them with a consultant. And you don't deliver bad news, right? The person who you employed to do this on your team is the person who delivers. But the con is, if this is your admin and your TC or a buyer's agent or a listing agent, is this the right use of their time? Because it may end up costing you more to have somebody else do it than to hire a professional, especially if they do not have the skills. I like interior design. I like decorating homes. Very different than staging for quick sale. If you are going to have your employees do it, have them shadow you if you do stage. Give them your checklists. Hold them accountable. Make sure you check out their work, right? Make sure you're looking at the art they're putting in or where they're moving things to make sure it makes sense with the flow of the home. How many of you have ever walked into a home and you're like, this makes no sense how I walked in and now why am I here and I'm confused? Is this a house? Like, where am I? There's certain setups that confuse you instead of pulling you through the home in a way that makes sense. Oops, where'd my slide go? Ah. So when we're implementing, and then hire a pro, because guess what? They're the bad guys. Your sellers feel great. It looks great. It's the right thing. They're either doing it virtually through an empty house or real things in an empty house or working with the sellers with checklists. And usually they know how to create the atmosphere. So when you are implementing all these things, there's 4 places to focus on, and that's the entryway. It's the first impression outside of the yard, right? The entryway. I can replace plants, fix the outside, but sometimes you can't fix that entryway. The living room, it's called living. We live in that place. That's where most of us are. The kitchen, I would put a bed in my kitchen and a master bedroom. Declutter, clean, maintain and repair, and create an atmosphere that's welcoming. What is the atmosphere that this house boasts, right? There's so many unique things about each home. Find out which rooms did they utilize the most. And those are the ones to use these 4: entryway, living room, kitchen, main bedroom. Pets are always a concern. I've seen many posts where, help, my seller's cat got out, or there's litter boxes, or you walk in the house and you can tell that there's cats or animals there. It just happens. They just exist in our world, and we love our furry friends, but sometimes they can cause some odors. Heavily recommend that the pets get taken out of the home for open houses or days where there are showings all day. Be considerate and try to stack showings so that the animals are out. And yes, cigarette smoke is always a consideration. It's harder when there's kids and teens involved, right? They may not be happy about the move, and those rooms always seem to be the ones that have the most clutter because we just have so many toys, and
My
I don't know
local-
where they come from. The
My
stuffed
local
animals.
Dairy Queen loved me because I would give Dairy Queen gift certificates to all my
Oh.
kids. If you
That
promise,
is smart.
right? Yes.
That is so smart. And there are simple things we can do versus extensive. You're going to know what to do when you walk in the house. You're going to see, okay, is it simply clutter, little cleaning, maybe some paint, and better flow with how we have the furniture in the room. My favorite is always when you have 2 openings to a room and they have those giant couches that come around blocking one opening. I don't love that with flow. And then if you get more extensive, outside of those clean, paint, repair, what is the significant home repair? Is it going to hit inspection? Is the flooring that bad? Kitchen features. Do you have an avocado refrigerator and stove?
Is your toilet pink?
Is your bathtub blue? Right? And is it to the point where your furniture is so out of date that we may have to use a stager to rent certain furniture to make the house appear in its value? So what first impressions does a house make for buyers? What do you think it does? How many of you have had someone walk up to the house and go, and then they walk in and they're like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's like a whole different world.
Yeah, makes them feel good or makes them want to walk away. That's
It does.
Yeah.
It does. They can see themselves living here, Bonnie. Exactly. It sets the tone. It sets the tone. And Mindy's right. You don't get a second chance to make a great first impression, right? Just like meeting, we are going to want to make sure that this home, everybody can see themselves there. I'm guilty of it. When we were home shopping, I fell in love with every house we went to, right? Because of that, the realtor was really good at making sure they hit all our expectations for a home. Paint or replace the front door. Make sure the doorbell works. Don't ever bring your dad with you when you're looking at homes either, because he turned into an inspector. All of a sudden, my dad has his inspector and appraisal license, right? So I learned that as well. Things like the hardware on doors or cabinets or bathrooms. Are they polished? Are they cleaned up? Fingerprints happen, but caked
Mr.
on messes
Clean.
don't need to.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Buy stock, buy many, keep them in your
Yup.
trunk.
Yup. New welcome mats. Mine is disgusting right now. I'm going to tell you right now, it has seen a good summer. There's been a lot of people on those welcome mats, but I was just looking at it going, this is grisly. I need a new one for the fall. Repair cracks on paving, on stairs, especially if it's a safety issue or concern. Clean the windows, including the inside parts, right? I'm looking at mine now and I'm horrifically embarrassed that the last rainstorm brought basically everything from the outside inside to my windows. Do you have broken screens? Do the screens have holes? Right? These are all things staging wise that can really set the tone for the house. And it was said earlier, but we're going to say it again, decluttering and cleaning are the 2 most important, and it gets your sellers halfway done with their packing.
Yep.
Halfway done with their packing, right? They're getting rid of things. They may find things they didn't know they had. I swear, I've got boxes in my attic that I haven't unpacked in 8 years. I should just chuck them, but I'm petrified. I'm petrified. Guys, questions about staging or what it can do for your home and for your sellers? Yes, Bruce, that is such an important thing. If you've ever had the misfortune of having to help sell a hoarder's home because of a life event, we've had to do it. My husband's had to do it. It was sad. But clutter can be overwhelming to those who live in it every day. So my last thing for you guys is go into this with empathy, because this is their home. We may not live the same way, we may not decorate the same way, but it is their home and they're connected to it. And most of them really love their homes.
Mhm.
And yes, do you replace light bulbs to make a property seem brighter? If there's a 40 watt where there should be a 60 watt, absolutely.
And let them be the same type of light bulb.
Correct. Buy a big old pack of the same brand at the Home Depot and go around and update them. Because I know some of mine don't match. And then you're looking at a yellow lampshade and a white lampshade, right? How the light throws, it's completely different.
Yep.
Fresh light bulbs. Remove dark shades and curtains, let the light shine, right? Or if you're in a bedroom, show off those light blocking curtains if they have them, right? So the curtains can go the other way for you too. And it is important. So Cheryl pointed out something. It's important to explain this to the seller so that you don't seem like you're attacking their property. Again, if you know your data, if you know your numbers, you know why properties are selling at certain price points faster with staging or certain things, then that's data and it takes the emotion out of it. And if you've already queued up that expectation in your listing presentation before you've even toured the home, you're one step ahead of this. You're taking the emotion out. And I love that. And then Rhea just added, don't be afraid to invest in one pack of medium boxes and tape to give to your client to get the process started. I love that.
Yep.
I love that.
And let's go. I mean, how many of you meet your seller clients at the office for the first time instead of at the property? They're not emotionally attached to the conversation when they're not in their home. So you can get all the paperwork signed, you could do the whole listing presentation, and then you can go in, schedule the meeting, go over the property disclosures. So rethink how you're doing your listing presentations and when you're doing it, because it makes a difference. And then if you need to bring in a stager, you've already had that conversation without them thinking you looked around their house and you don't like something about that.
Oh,
Right? So when you're not in their home, they're not reading between the lines of what you're saying, because it's a general conversation that you're having, not knowing.
Right. And do you have the vendors? Do you have a list of people that could come in, like we said before? And Bruce put in, give them 3 piles, giveaway, keep, trash. But do you have a good vendor for dumpsters? Do you have somebody that does estate sales? Do you have somebody that will come in and do a cleaning once everything is decluttered? Right. That's another great thing. We have a team down here that is part of the listing. After they've decluttered, they get cleanings every week. They get the first deep clean, and then until the property sells, once a week to help keep the property in shape for it to go in front, right? So there's all these small things you can do to add to your value proposition to help with the staging of the home, whether you're going to do it, whether you're going to reach out to a professional. I love using the staging professionals. They have different packages, right? And most of them can also be paid at closing. Discuss this with them, interview a bunch, look at the work they're doing, because all stagers don't fit every home either. They may have specific styles, or you may want to go with a luxury staging expert if you're in the luxury market. If you're in commercial, there are commercial stagers to help offices move faster, right? You pay.
I'll tell you, my practice was I had a stager who I paid $100 to do a staging consultation. And the stager would go in with a clipboard, have the seller have a notebook, and they would go through the whole house, write the notes of what the seller would be responsible for doing. Made a huge difference.
It does. And while you guys are chatting, I'm just going to pull up all our list of people so we can give away a prize before we go.
All right.
And don't forget, you guys, we always have extra entries on brookthenerd.com. And then what you do is you click on whatever float today's class was. So class 5 tells you next week's homework and the evaluation's right there. And so far, I don't know if we're going to keep this streak up, but everybody who has put an eval in has been the winner the following class. So get those evals in. It helps us really make things so much better for you guys. So let me pull those up.
While Brooke's doing that, we went over 2 strategies today. What did you take away from it? Take yourself off mute, put it in the chat. I want to hear from you.
Know your numbers. Excuse me. Know your numbers.
Okay.
And skills.
Absolutely. Skills is a huge one.
Get out and see your market, see what's around, see what's out, what comes in the market on a daily basis. Try to see that home immediately, just so you, in case you have a buyer that might be interested in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. I see in the chat,
Going
skills
on.
and staging, refresh printing, 3P2F. Honestly, Brooke, that's the first time I've heard that. I know it's crazy. And then the 555 CMA.
I love that 3P2F. And I don't know if because I learned that in a staging class that was brought center, but that has stuck with me for a long time.
Yep. What else did we hear?
Knowing what's going on in your MLS is huge.
Absolutely.
For any this, like we're talking, you want to get any market, like you got to know your numbers, you got to know your MLS. This is why Bovi got this tattooed across her forehead when we were at Mega Camp. You've got to know your numbers, and she got it perfectly. It's backwards so you can read it when you're coming at her. It's amazing. But you've got to know this. This is what truly makes you an expert. No, oh come on, you could have stayed off camera. What happens at Mega Camp stays at Mega Camp. All right, so this week our prize is from someone who's actually been on our growth call before. So if you come to our growth call often, you may recognize this name. She's part of the Boston Business Women's Network. She's local to the Westford area, but it's Balanced Bookkeeping. And I don't know if she's on. I know she was going to be running back from a client, but she's actually been watching these with you guys and learning Shift for her own business as well. So today's prize basket is from our sponsor, Kate Whitteman at Balanced Bookkeeping. All of our information is also on the Summer of Shift, the Brooke the Nerd Summer of Shift stuff. So if you go to today's class, you can also find her info. But if you do want a connection, please reach out to me and I'll make sure that you get connected with her. She does help realtors get better with their books and get a P&L and get them organized with their expenses. She is such a wonderful research. I love her. All right, so today, remember, you have to be on. Our winner today is Brittany Carignan. Did I say that right? Brittany Carignan? Are you on? I think I see
her in the
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. I can't have my camera on at the moment, but I'm
That's
here.
okay. Welcome. Congratulations on winning. We will email you after the call and connect you. Congratulations. What market center are you in?
Thank you. I'm at Signature Properties in Norwell.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my wonderful co-hosts, Jen with the chat moderation today, and Tiffany helping me as always. We can't wait to see you at the next Summer of Shift. Don't forget to read Tactic 9 in the book. That's what we're going to be covering next week, and fill out the eval so that way you can win extra chances. Whoops, that was not the right. That's part of the list of extras. But thank you for everyone who has been submitting their entries, and we will see you on the next Summer of Shift.
Bye.
Thank you.